Thank you everyone for subscribing to Infinitely Productions. If you have not done so, please click the bell and subscribe, and we hope you enjoy our content.
Warning! Warning! The following video is intended for educational and entertainment use only. The content will include disturbing images, violent scenarios, and explicit language. This video is intended for 18 plus and older audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Alright, I'm all set. Now, I don't know where we're going to put it. Shot. We're allowed to shoot. There's not much more to get here. We understand that there's a hospital in question that we should maybe go to. And just make sure to release the EMPs from the flash. Mark has it. Mark has it already.
Isn't that his brother then?
That Watson over there?
What happened? This is the wrong end. It won't work.
I need a double mail. Here, look, I'll show you.
What, coming out of what?
Coming out of microwave? Get the shots, I guess.
Cover the car!
There you go, cover the car.
Cover the car!
Watch this.
That's right, let me cover the car.
You alright, bud?
Yeah. Alright, I'm all set.
I understand.
Mark! Mark! Bring him out there.
Yeah, I can get it. There it is. There it is. Got to move? Yeah, we're covered. There you go. Let's move. Moving. Come on. Right on. Go ahead. Stay. You got it, Bobby. Bobby, come on. Hey, Charlie. To the door. Excuse me, sir. Then we go to Cusses, man. Let's go. We go to Cusses. It's a good place here. What?
I'm going to tell you something. I lost the husband. I'm going to tell the police made a circus of this. I think it's a shame. 2 hours.
That's got the clear pipe. Push 100. Where's Bruno's candy store, bro?
I have no idea.
One of these places was his, right?
I think.
According to several law enforcers, Angelo Bruno traveled around the country settling disputes among the mafia organization. He was a man known to often overrule violence. His Philadelphia family was reportedly into loan sharking and gambling, apparently avoiding drug trafficking and prostitution. Because of his reign of peace, many were shocked by his slaying, especially attorney Jacob Kosman, a longtime friend and legal advisor to Bruno. Bruno was under almost constant indictment by law enforcers in South Jersey and Philadelphia. Just last week, he went before the closed-door New Jersey State Commission of Investigation. Just last night, Kossman and Bruno dined together at Cuz's restaurant in South Philadelphia. Kossman left early, leaving his friend for the last time. Do you think it's connected with the SCI investigation?
No. The SCI investigation was practically over already. Practically over.
Did people wonder, so it didn't have anything to do with him talking, or people worrying?
No, not the slightest.
What do you think?
I don't know.
Did he express any nervousness last night?
Nervous last night? He was only nervous when he thought I was going to eat some of his macaroni.
Sharing Kossman's shock were the neighbors of the reputed mob leader, who watched today as crowds of friends and relatives dropped by the Snyder Street home to give their sympathy to Bruno's wife, son, and daughter.
I was just totally shocked. I never believed that anything like this would happen to Angelo.
Why not?
Marvelous person, I thought. He always a gentleman, always had a kind word. I just can't say enough good about him, really.
Do you think he was tied to organized crime?
Well, I couldn't say yes or no. I don't know if he was or not. As far as I'm concerned, I knew him as he was. Perfect gentleman.
Throughout the day, hundreds of people have driven slowly by the house, anxious to get a first-hand look at where Philadelphia's Godfather lived. One woman made note of the address, 934. She said she wanted to play the number. I'm Mary Ellen Gallagher, Channel 6 Action News in South Philadelphia.
Tell by the way he looked. Look. Who was driving? Who was driving the car? I don't know. All right. Is that a radio?
A massive wound behind the right ear. The wound indicates the use of a rather heavy weapon.
There you go. Come on, let's move. Moving. Come on. Right on. Go ahead. You got it. Come on, Bobby. Bobby, come on. Hey, Charlie. Excuse me, sir.
It began the night of March 21st when Angelo Bruno, a respected and powerful don in La Cosa Nostra, was shot to death in front of his Snyder Avenue row home while sitting in a car driven by John Stanfa. Stanfa has since disappeared. Then, in rapid succession, the grisly murders of Antonio Caponegro, the Bruno family's North Jersey boss, and his brother-in-law, Alfred Salerno. Both bodies were dumped in the Bronx. Last month, John Simone of Yardley, Pennsylvania, a cousin of Bruno, was shot to death and his body dumped in Staten Island. Now Frank Sindone, a lieutenant who had a record of 100 arrests for illegal lottery and gambling. Sindone lived in the 1800 block of Schley Street in the Packer Park section of Philadelphia. He operated this steak and hoagie shop at 10th and Maya-Mensing, but authorities say his major occupation was that of enforcer and loan sharking. Sindone's car was found 2 blocks from where his body was found and was taken to police headquarters where it is being combed for possible clues. As to who is responsible for the 5 murders, members of the Pennsylvania Crime Commission could only speculate.
What you've seen happen recently in the way of homicides probably reflects that unsettled situation in the family.
Who's taking over from your viewpoint?
From our viewpoint, Philip Testa.
Law enforcement officials say Philip Testa was Bruno's #1 man, and now Peter Casella has moved up the crime ladder and is Testa's first lieutenant. According to the Pennsylvania Crime Commission, there have been no gangland-style murders in the Bruno crime family for the past 20 years. However, in the past 7 months, there have been 5. The Crime Commission declined to say who might be the next, but added there probably would be others who, like Frank Sindone, would meet similar ends in similar places like this. Hank Berger, Channel 6 Action News, South Philadelphia.
We don't know the caliber yet. We're still investigating that. He was shot numerous times. We don't have the amount yet until the medical examiner completes his examination of Mr. McCullough.
His union is involved in Atlantic City in construction work, and immediately, of course, there's speculation that the mafia, which is involved in rackets and gambling and all those things. Do you see any of that connection at this point?
I couldn't say anything about that. I would have no knowledge of that. We just investigate homicide.
Outside.
All the way over.
I was trying to go the other side,
To his friends, John McCullough was a warm, decent man, an heroic figure in the union-building trade movement. He brought Local 30 from virtually nothing to a 1,500-member local that now has one of the highest pay scales on the Delaware Valley labor scene. The friends say he spent as much time with charity as he did with the union. He was a supporter and fundraiser for Ed Rendell as well as Frank Rizzo. Local 30's lawyer Bernard Katz had lunch with McCullough on Monday.
I can state categorically in no way, shape, or form is there any relationship of any fiber of what was his existence to organized crime.
Another 20-year friend met with McCullough and Mayor Green yesterday at City Hall.
I can't begin to even think of anybody in the world that would want to hurt that man, because there was nothing but good in him.
But during his 2 decades as boss of Local 30 of the Roofers Union, there were frequent allegations by law enforcement units and various managements that McCullough's rank and file used violence and intimidation to organize workers and to fight for contracts. The best-known example was the June 1972 riot at the Valley Forge construction site of a Sheraton hotel being built by non-union contractors, the Altimos Construction Company. 1,000 pickets reportedly rioted at the site, destroying $400,000 in equipment and materials. At other times, there were unexplained dynamite blasts and assaults. Last June, 11 Local 30 members finally went to jail in connection with those riots. McCullough was never charged in that case. McCullough had led the rough-and-tumble Roofers Union since 1959. He was widely considered a symbol of their sometimes violent nature. And while many people considered him a wonderful person, he met the same kind of violent end as did many of his associates, including Angelo Bruno. Vernon Odom, Channel 6 Action News in Winfield Heights.
If they know, they're not saying, at least for now, while Local 30 Roofers Union President John McCullough was marked for death. It was here inside his home at 2005 Foster Street in northeast Philadelphia shortly after 6 o'clock last night when a lone gunman posing as a flower delivery man gunned down the union official. McCullough's Cadillac remains in the driveway where he left it. Wife Audrey, who was in the house when her husband was shot 6 times by the gunman after he delivered 3 poinsettia plants, was not there today. Only a Philadelphia policeman stood guard. It's a quiet street, and neighbors were either not at home or declined to open doors to discuss the murder. Down the block, a Philadelphia policeman who was on sick leave had just returned to his home after the murder. I asked him whether his wife or children heard anything.
No, nothing other than the commotion after it happened, and we had gas men working on the house here. They were in and out all day, so it was kind of tough for us to hear anything with them banging and everything.
This is the van police say the gunman used. It was rented from a New Jersey leasing corporation on December 11th and was supposed to be returned the next day. It was dusted for fingerprints. The van was found here on the Jefferson Ward parking lot at the intersection of Roosevelt Boulevard and Red Lion Road. According to police, the keys were in the ignition lock, and also 2 poinsettia leaves were found inside the van. Union officials say they are at a loss to explain the murder. There is some speculation McCullough was killed over organizing control of the lucrative trade unions in Atlantic City. There is 2 distinctive sides to the late John McCullough. He was combative, tough, and shaped up Roofers Local 30 from an ineffective union to one that got a lot of respect among labor councils and one that was equally feared. He was also variously described as a compassionate man, a man with a heart of gold, who would raise funds for charities at the drop of a hat. Everybody loved him, they said, except one. Hank Sperger, Channel 6 Action News at Roofers Local 30 headquarters in Northeast Philadelphia.
Here's one man.
Stilitano was wanted for questioning in connection with the March 1979 shooting of Michael Russo. Russo was gunned down outside this bar, DeGeorge's El Dorado, here in the Chambersburg section of Trenton. Michael Russo was the son of Nick Russo, a reputed member of the Carlo Gambino crime family. Trenton Police Detective Captain George Courtney says the 1979 shooting allegedly occurred after an argument between the younger Russo and Stilitano. Police theorize that Stilitano's recent murder was in retaliation for the Russo killing and not part of a gang war resulting from the death of Angelo Bruno.
I think this was a personal vendetta, to be honest with you. This was 2 factions that didn't get along over a certain subject matter. An altercation occurred. Michael Russo was murdered. Now, Frankie Stilitano has been murdered, and our interest is, were the 2 related? And that's what we want to try to find out, and that's what we're going to work with the Philadelphia police.
Sources told me that an open contract of $100,000 was out on Stilitano, who lived here at 106 Washington Street in Trenton before his disappearance. The car in which his body was found last night was registered to a now-defunct Trenton car dealership, partly owned by Stilitano's brother-in-law. Whether or not Stilitano was shot in Philadelphia or elsewhere and then taken to the city, and who pulled the trigger, are questions that remain mysteries tonight. I'm Kathy Gandolfo, Channel 6 Action News in Trenton, New Jersey.
This is Joe Sanchez. It was almost a year ago that the bloody battle for power began. It was March 21st, 1980, when the reputed head of the mob in Philadelphia and South Philly was murdered. The gangland execution of Angelo Bruno was seen as an effort to remove him from power because he did not favor drug trafficking. It was allegedly done with the blessings of the 7 major mob families in America. The deal being that Atlantic City would go to the Gambino family of New York in return for Las Vegas considerations for Chicago-based families. Bruno's death left some top lieutenants struggling for command of the crime family. 6 days after Bruno's murder, there was a meeting in North Jersey involving John Stanfa, Albert Salerno, John Sindone, John Simone, Phil Testa, and Antonio Camponegro. 6 weeks later, Camponegro and his brother-in-law, Albert Salerno, were found in Brooklyn in the trunk of a car. On September 20th, John Simone was found shot to death in a vacant field on Staten Island. His car was found in Yardley, Bucks County. On October 30th, the body of John Sindone, Angelo Bruno's loan sharking chief, was found in a plastic bag behind a shopping center at 20th and Oregon in South Philadelphia. On February 20th of this year, the grand jury indictments were handed up against Phil Chicken Man Testa and 9 other alleged mob members. They were charged with racketeering, loan sharking, mail fraud, and illegal gambling. U.S. Attorney Peter Vira said at the time the indictments would seriously hurt mob activity in Philadelphia. But 10 days ago, law enforcement sources told Action News that other mob families had decided that the indicted men were expendable, and there was a chance they would exchange information if the feds would go easy on them. Therefore, the execution of Testa may have been ordered simply as a practical matter. This is Joe Sanchez, Channel 6 Action News.
In his play Julius Caesar, Shakespeare warned, "Beware the Ides of March." It was on this day in 1981 that reputed Philadelphia organized crime boss Philip Testa met his end. Police tell me Testa pulled up and double-parked his Caprice Classic in front of his Porter Street home, then got out of his car, went up to his front door, opened it, and then tripped a bomb that took his life.
That's about 2:58 a.m. Testa came home, double parked his car here, went up the steps. As he went to open the front door, there was a blast. And as you can see what the explosion did, he was taken to St. Agnes's Hospital then, and he was pronounced dead at 4:15 a.m.
By dawn, Philip Testa's family members, including his son and friends who had gathered at St. Agnes Hospital, filed out in stunned silence, some covering their faces. They had wept openly in the emergency room. A woman believed to be Testa's daughter was seen wailing near the bomb site. She was ushered into a neighbor's house and then quickly away. As the bomb squad checked Testa's second car, it was clean of explosives. Many windows in the area were broken. The 2 elderly ladies next door had severe damage to their home. They were taken away by a relative. One of them, Miss Helen Hart, has lived here for 40 years. For 15 years, Ray Bardo lived down the street from Phil Testa.
He was a gentleman, he was kind, and he was always very nice to the neighbors. It was really a shock for us.
You never saw the other side of his life? Or?
No, never.
Philip Testa's associates tell me that he spent the last night of his life here at his Old City restaurant, known as Virgilio's. Outside the Testa home, I spotted one of the last persons to see Testa alive, the manager of Virgilio's, who refused to give me his name. You were the manager of his restaurant?
Right.
When was the last time you saw him? Did you see him last night?
Yeah, he was there all night.
And what time did he leave?
I left before him.
Did he say anything last night? Did he seem to be upset or know that he was in danger?
Very good mood.
So, on this frigid Sunday morning in mid-March, Philip Testa is killed gangland style, right on his own front porch. It was less than a year ago that his former boss, Angelo Bruno, was killed in front of his South Philadelphia home. It was last month that Testa and 9 other Philadelphia organized crime figures were indicted by a federal grand jury. Testa's killing today is no surprise to Philadelphia police. Vernon Odom, Channel 6 Action News in South Philadelphia. Moments before 3 a.m., the explosion that killed Testa shook the neighborhood around his twin home in the 2100 block of Porter Street. Police say the house was empty when Testa arrived and double-parked his black Chevrolet next to his green Ford. and then went to his front porch, apparently triggering the bomb when opening his front door. He died at 4:15 a.m. He had been carrying more than $10,000. Thousands more were found inside the gutted house. His friends and relatives, including his son, left St. Agnes Hospital where they had gathered for the 1-hour death vigil, saying nothing. They had cried loudly inside. Police called this a clean hit. No one else was injured, though several houses had broken windows and structural damage. The explosion was heard all over South Philadelphia. It woke up Testa neighbor Ray Bardo, who said Testa was a gentlemanly neighbor for 15 years.
My husband and I were in bed sleeping, and we heard this horrible shake of a house. Our home shook, and we went to the window and we looked out, and there was a puff of smoke. And then all of a sudden there were lots of police cars coming down the street, and when we came out we saw that it was Phil Testa's house that was bombed.
Much of the speculation about the series of mob killings centers around Atlantic City and the struggle for control of the rackets in that gambling resort town. Many others believe that narcotics trafficking plays a role here too. Vernon Odom, Channel 6 Action News in South Philadelphia.
It was March 21st, nearly a year ago, that the crime wars erupted on the streets of Philadelphia. The recognized crime kingpin, Angelo Bruno, was shot to death as he sat in his car outside his South Philadelphia home. The Bruno hit may have been engineered by other mob families in America because Bruno reportedly did not want to be involved in drug trafficking. Days after Bruno's death, several second-level lieutenants gathered to try to divide up the turf left behind. But it wasn't too long after that when more mob-style hits began taking their toll on the feuding factions. Antonio Caponegro and Albert Salerno were both found dead. Their bodies had been stabbed, shot, and mutilated. Another reputed mobster, John Simone, was shot dead. His car was found in Yardley, Bucks County. A month after that, the body of Frank Sindone, allegedly Bruno's loan sharking chief, was found in South Philadelphia. It was less than a month ago that law enforcement officials got in on the act with a sweeping indictment against Testa and 9 of the remaining alleged mobsters. They were charged with racketeering, loan sharking, gambling, and mail fraud, and supposedly other mob families had decided they were expendable. Whatever the case, Philip Testa, described by many as a tough, mean operator, is now dead. Another chapter in the Philadelphia crime saga.
The body of Harry Petros was found with multiple gunshot wounds stuffed in the trunk of his 1979 Cadillac car on Lewis Street near Baltimore Pike, East Lansdowne, around 4 a.m. this morning. Police say Petros had been dead for at least 24 hours. He was last seen by his wife Saturday afternoon. This is a 1967 picture of Harry Petros. Petros, who was 53 years old when he was killed, is said to have been engaged in loan sharking and gambling operations both in Delaware County and Philadelphia. Thomas Gallagher, Delaware County Chief of Detectives of the Criminal Investigation Division, was asked about Petros's possible connection of the so-called Greek mob in Philadelphia with the Bruno family.
I have no information as to his connection with the Bruno family. The Pennsylvania State Crime Commission in 1980 released a report that he was involved with mobs in the Philadelphia area in loan sharking and also in gambling. I would put him on the lower echelon to medium. He was not a boss. He was one of the people that operated much on his own.
You say there's no connection between him and the Bruno family or alleged gambling?
No, I didn't say that. I said I cannot connect him with that. I have no information to release at this time that would connect him.
So far, there is no known motive for the gangland assassination, although there's a lot of speculation. However, it would seem that whoever did it or commissioned the killing wanted the victim to be found as a possible example to others. Hank Sperger, Channel 6 Action News, Media. The scene today outside Miletta's restaurant in South Philadelphia where the shooting deaths occurred in no way betrayed the brief violence that occurred inside last night. The table for 9 guests, where 50-year-old Steve Boris and 54-year-old Jeanette Currow were shot, was still cluttered with dishes and unconsumed food. Reportedly present at the table when the shooting broke out were former disc jockey Jerry Blabbett and Raymond Long John Martirano, a business associate of the late crime boss Angelo Bruno. Restaurant owner Miletus Papa Giorgio said he saw Boris in his restaurant once before, but did not know of his connection with the so-called Greek mob or anything else about him. He said he ran from the kitchen into the dining room when he heard the shots.
I saw two people, one man full on blood on a rug, and the other lady next to me, full blood too. And somebody said to me, lay down, Mel, lay down. And by the time I tried to find out what, the police coming in because we call them up.
According to Papa Giorgio, police recovered 9 spent shells from the floor of the restaurant. Gino Lazzari, director of intelligence of the Pennsylvania Crime Commission, says Mrs. Currow just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. But Lazzari believes Boris was killed in retaliation for the slaying of Harry Petros, another member of the Greek mob, over the Memorial Day weekend. He adds further speculation.
And the other theory could be that Boros, with his affiliation and connection with the Riccobines and the LCN family, the old family of Angelo Bruno, may have crossed them in some dealings and was taken away.
Is it all part of a power struggle for the control of the Philadelphia crime family?
No, I don't think so. I think the control of the Philadelphia crime family as we know it will rest with the Italian element.
When reputed Philadelphia crime boss Angelo Bruno was assassinated by a shotgun blast in March 1980, the speculation was that a bloodbath would follow. Well, the speculation has turned into reality because since that time at least 10 more have died gangland style. And the speculation continues that it's not over yet. Hank Berger, Channel 6 Action News, South Philadelphia.
We can get in this picture.
Which girl?
If we can get in this picture.
Police say it happened around 5:45 this evening, about 1.5 hours after he left his federal racketeering trial in Independence Mall. Frank "Chicky" Narducci parked his late model Cadillac Seville near the alleyway on Curtin Street, about 50 yards from his home around the corner in the 3200 block of South Broad. As he got out of the car, police say, shots rang out. Narducci was hit 9 times. He was carrying $800 in cash and checks.
We have no witnesses this time, Vernon. We don't know. We know that we've been hit with multiple gunshot wounds. We know that he was in court until late this afternoon. We know this is where he usually parks every night.
And so yet another classic mob hit here in South Philadelphia. The top 4 members of the old Bruno gang are all dead now. Police sources tell me that they believe that the New York mob is responsible. They speculate also that Atlantic City is still the disputed turf. Vernon Odom, Channel 6 Action News in South Philadelphia.
Mount Laurel police spent the day trying to piece together why somebody shot the 32-year-old Insurello, a father of 2 small children.
The body was found by police, frozen, lying face down in the trunk of the car. Hands were handcuffed behind his back. A plastic bag had been placed over his head.
Insurello is related to this man, Giuseppe Gambino, reputedly a member of the Gambino crime family of New York. The dead man was related by marriage and reportedly operated pizza parlors for the Gambinos. Insurello's house was only a few doors from the Gambinos in Cherry Hill. But unlike previous suspected mob hits, Insurello did not have a known criminal record and was not suspected as a key mob figure. His only known brush with the law was a federal indictment charging him with falsifying Army records. Police are baffled about why his body ended up in a car trunk at this Mount Laurel hotel.
The vehicle's registration, Pennsylvania plates that appeared on the 1982 Cougar were registered to Joe's Pizza Parlor, 122 South 16th Street in Philadelphia.
Joe's Pizza reopened 2 weeks before Christmas. We checked today to see if the car Insurello was found in belonged here.
Do you know whether there was a Cougar, a brown Mercury Cougar, that was registered? You don't know anything?
At first, this case seemed to be one more in a long line of local mob hits. It could be, but the victim this time was not well known, which seems to make him an unlikely target of either a mob feud or a power play. It has to be stressed that any speculation that this was a mob killing is just speculation. All the police know for sure at this point is that 32-year-old Pietro Insurelli, father of two, is dead following an execution-style slaying. John Rollins, Channel 6 Action News in Mount Laurel.
March 15, 1981. This house looked like Berlin after the Blitz. The house and Phil Testa were blown to bits. Police tell Action News that across the street from that house, that night, a van belonging to Rocco Marinucci was parked. They say it's no coincidence that 1 year to the day later, Marinucci was murdered and that 3 cherry bombs were stuffed in his mouth. Police say it looked like a case of mob revenge. This is the 1980 report of the Philadelphia Crime Commission, authored in large part by Gino Lazzeri, former FBI agent. We talked by phone tonight about Rocco Marinucci.
More or less identified basically as a guy that likes to talk. He's a tough guy, let's just say that, tough little guy.
Exactly 1 year ago tonight, Phil Testa's house was bombed, and a van which they say belonged to Marinucci was parked across the street, and there's speculation that he was killed today in retaliation for having killed Testa.
That makes a lot of sense, Mark, in view of the fact, that Testa has some family left that's still alive, and possibly someone would, if someone would pass on information that so-and-so was responsible for the killing of your father, I think that being Italian myself, I think that I could understand some reasoning behind it. Although I'm not for a minute suggesting that anyone in the family is retaliating for their father in this particular case.
All this violence started here 2 years ago next Sunday, March 21st, 1980. The local Godfather, Angelo Bruno, gunned down in front of his house on Snyder Street. Since then, a dozen mob-related deaths, and experts like Gino Lazzeri don't think it's over yet. I'm Mark Howard, Channel 6 Action News.
Bobby, come on.
Police worked for about half an hour to pry open the trunk of the gray Oldsmobile after an anonymous caller told officials there may be a body in there. There was. The victim is 30-year-old Robert Hornicle of Maple Shade, New Jersey. New Jersey police had been investigating a missing persons report on Hornicle, who was last seen January 17th and who had complained of threats against his life. The medical examiner says Hornicle died from a gunshot wound to the chest and another to the back. Police tell me Hornicle's body was found with a rope wrapped around his neck. His pants were halfway down, and there were Christmas presents and a baseball bat in the trunk next to him. Police say it looks like an organized crime hit.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, because of the scenario here.
Any indications that this man was involved with organized crime?
He himself, if it is who we believe it to be, is not in the hierarchy of organized crime, but we believe that he associates with people in organized crime.
Police sources tell me the victim was allegedly involved in underworld drug trafficking, but Hornicle's friends and neighbors, who talked with Action News investigative reporter John Rollins in Maple Shade tonight, remembered him as a fine man and an upstanding citizen.
He's a good person, very nice guy.
Can you think of any reason why anybody would want to do him harm?
No, none at all.
That's all there is to it. I mean, a real nice guy and the kind of guy you associate with and everything else like that.
Can you think of any reason why anybody would want to hurt him?
Hey, we're all surprised in here, too.
Though they speculate the murder had something to do with Hornicle's alleged underworld involvement, police say they still don't know exactly why he was killed. They do mean to find out. I'm Robin Garrison, Channel 6 Action News in Queen Village.
Is there a body in there?
Okay, we'll be live in 5 minutes. No, we do not know that at this time. We have looked it up and we have found no connection. Minute and a half away. 1 minute. Here comes the program. Chelsea would be. Ivory, Chelsea would have it too. Ivory, it's just part of the chopper station. Okay, stand by. Program's up.
Philadelphia police turned their attention today to finding the murder weapon that ended the criminal career of Pasquale "Pat the Cat" Spirito. They were out searching the rooftops near the murder scene at 11th and Mifflin in South Philadelphia. And then they began a fishing expedition of sorts, searching out about 20 sewer drains with a 75-pound magnet. But the weapon was not among the cans and other debris. The 43-year-old Spirito was found shot to death while sitting in the driver's seat of his silver Cadillac last night. Detectives say it looks like a professional job.
The deceased pulled up to 11th and Mifflin. 2 males were seen exiting his vehicle and opened fire on him.
Do you have any description at all on the suspects?
Yeah, we have 2 white males, approximately 40 years of age, well-dressed.
Local residents were out in full force today, but those we talked to said they didn't see nor hear anything.
Did you hear anything last night?
No.
Nothing at all?
Until the sirens came, that's how I ran.
Nothing at all. I didn't hear nothing.
When did you first find out about it?
About 10:30.
Did you hear anything?
No, I didn't hear any gunshots.
Did you see anybody running from the car?
No.
Pasquale Spirito was no stranger to police nor to organized crime. In fact, he's listed in the 1983 report of the Pennsylvania Crime Commission as an active member of the Philadelphia La Cosa Nostra.
Spirito is listed as a soldier in the crime family of Nicky Scarfo and a close associate of underworld boss Harry the Hunchback Riccabini. He was convicted of racketeering in June of last year and was free on bond pending an appeal. So the question for law enforcement now is whether the shooting was an isolated incident or if we'll be seeing renewed violence among the underworld in Philadelphia. Action News reporter Vernon Odom has more on the state of organized crime in the Delaware Valley.
Philadelphia lawyer Malcolm Lazen resigned as Pennsylvania Crime Commission chairman after completing this year's report on organized crime in the Commonwealth. He'll return to private life, but he's leaving with a number of ominous warnings about the steady growth of mob influence and power in this state, with Atlantic City's Nicky Scarfo firmly in charge, despite his current imprisonment.
Nicodemus Scarfo, we believe, is in charge. We believe that the way in which he is able to keep control of the family is by virtue of his insurance policy through the Gambino and Genovese families in New York.
What does that mean specifically?
What that means is that if you take on Nicky Scarfo, you have to pay the price in terms of the Gambino and Genovese family coming after you. That's a heavy-duty insurance policy.
Therefore, are you suggesting...
And for those who believe the mob is a myth and crime still doesn't pay, Lazen disclosed this tidbit about the estate of the late Angelo Bruno.
We have information from, I would say, a very reliable informant that despite the fact that Angelo Bruno, at least in appearance, left nothing in terms of estate, that in fact, through a variety of conduits, that his estate is probably worth someplace between $9 to $11 million.
Lazen, a prominent local Republican and former candidate for district attorney, also takes some political potshots at party boss Billy Meehan. All this at 10:30 Sunday morning on Issues and Answers. Vernon Odom, Channel 6, Action News.
Philadelphia homicide detectives say Robert Riccobene was bringing his mother home from a shopping trip at about 10 o'clock last night. 73-year-old Jean Riccobene is Harry the Hunchback Riccobene's stepmother and was living in Harry's southwest Philadelphia home while he serves time in a federal prison on a racketeering conviction. As Jean Riccobene and her son Robert got out of this blue car last night, police say the Riccobenes saw two men approach them with a sawed-off shotgun. The Riccobenes apparently tried to flee, but the gunman caught up with them in a next-door neighbor's backyard. At that point, neighbors tell me they heard a shot ring out. Dolores Pisano tells me she came outside when she heard Jean Riccobene's screams.
I said to her, "Can I help you in any way?" And she says, "No, my son, he's shot." And then I heard her say to the policeman then finally came, and she said to the police, "Please help me." She says, I tried to catch him. I stopped him from shooting him. But he wouldn't stop. He just shot him anyhow, dropped the gun and ran.
Officials say Robert Riccobene was shot at close range in the back of the head. His mother was slightly injured when the butt of the shotgun hit her in the face. Investigators believe this is just one more incident in the mob war that began when Angelo Bruno was murdered. Certain law enforcement officials tell Action News this hit was not unexpected. Riccobene was warned, in fact, that his life was in danger. I'm Robin Garrison, Channel 6 Action News in Southwest Philadelphia.
Hey, I'll
Somebody was holding everybody up the other night. Saturday night. 4 o'clock. Yeah, 4.
Can't believe it, man.
When we went to the back, we saw her trying to grab at the figure that was on the ground, versus, I guess her son or whatever it was, and we could see, looking in the yard beside it, broken off shotgun.
Sawed-off shotgun?
Sawed-off shotgun.
Driver hadn't gotten in yet.
To be a
Closely, and there will...
Oh, okay.
Jewelers Row was bustling with holiday business today, but merchants on the block remained jumpy. This closed jewelry store was a reminder of yesterday's suicide by 27-year-old Enrico Riccobini, the nephew of reputed mob figure Harry Riccobini, whose faction is currently at war with other segments of South Philadelphia's trigger-happy underworld. Police sources tell me that Enrico, who owned this store, the place where he shot himself yesterday afternoon, had no apparent business connections with the crime syndicate. But police sources tell me Enrico was frightened and had been told by lawmen as well as mob figures that he was a potential target for a hit. Just 9 days ago, his uncle, Robert Riccobini, known by police to be involved in mob gambling activities, was assassinated. Enrico Riccobini's father, Mario, and Mario's brother, Harry, are in prison now. And though Enrico is said to be clean, his bloodline apparently made him a marked man. Few merchants would talk about the latest Riccobini to die.
He seemed like a gentleman and a young man minding his own business, and that's all I can say at this time. I don't want to say too much more.
The theory by authorities is this guy was intimidated to death, that he operated a clean business.
I wouldn't have know anything about his business.
Police are certain that the pressure, stress, and danger of being a Riccobini these days was too much for Enrico, even if his business was not the business that made other members of his family so infamous. Vernon Odom, Channel 6 Action News, on Jewelers Row.
This is the spot where authorities found Sal Testa's body along Garwood Road in a remote section of Gloucester Township. An anonymous tip from a teenage boy who discovered the body shortly after 10 o'clock last night led police to the scene. Testa had been shot twice at close range in the back of the head with a small caliber weapon. Police weren't sure the victim was Testa for 6 hours. The identification was finally made through fingerprints. Testa's body was clearly visible just a few feet from the road. His legs were bound and the body was wrapped in a blanket. Although authorities refused to say Testa's death is mob-related, the evidence appears to be similar to that of an execution-style murder.
The body was visible. The body of the gentleman, Mr. Testa, was relatively dry on an evening which had had a substantial amount of rain within an hour of the body's discovery. So that we are concluding at this point that it's not unreasonable to assume that he was killed elsewhere and taken to the scene at which he was located.
Wickstead said robbery is an unlikely motive since Testa had about $200 still in his pocket. The 28-year-old Testa was no stranger to mob violence. There were at least 2 previous attempts on his life. In July of 1982, Testa survived being shot 8 times near his home in South Philadelphia. 2 reputed mob figures in the Harry Riccobini crime faction, Joseph Padula and Victor DeLuca, were convicted of the shooting and are now in prison. Then in December of 1983, Testa and 2 bodyguards were ambushed by 4 unidentified assailants in South Philadelphia. Gunshots were exchanged, but no one was injured. Police are trying to determine exactly what Testa was doing up until his death. An avid racquetball player, Testa was apparently wearing sports clothes when he was killed. Police have made no arrests in the case so far. Phyllis Burke, Channel 6 Action News, Gloucester Township, New Jersey.
Don't get caught in the cord. We all right? Yeah. Okay.
Oh, that's what it said. 3 days. Yesterday, I
Bruno still on top?
Oh, certainly. We describe him as a very significant associate, a major associate, who was primarily involved in both legitimate business activity and some illegitimate business activity that the mob was behind. Gambling, for one, would be the illegitimate side. Loan sharking.
Today, Philadelphia detectives combed the area near the scene of the reputed South Philadelphia mobster's murder. Police have eyewitnesses and murder weapons have been found, but solving this crime will be tough, they tell me. The Delfonso family priest refused to talk to me on camera as he paid a quick visit to the home of the slain underworld figure. These kinds of scenes have been played out so many times in South Philadelphia in the 80s, it is like an old gangster movie. After more than 20 South Philly mob murders in the last 5 years, the people in this neighborhood are hardly shocked by the murder of Franke Flowers. But some are quite surprised today. They thought the gang war was over for now. Some neighbors did not want their faces seen on television.
I thought it was done. I thought it was done.
Well, it's been pretty quiet the last couple of years, the last year or so. Been quiet around here. Never expected that to happen.
The neighbors were looking and whispering, but business and life were relatively normal near the 9th Street Market today. All with whom we talk tell me they will remember Franke Flowers as a nice, quiet man, the operator of this modest flower shop he inherited from his father. But police for years had that shop under surveillance. The Crime Commission considered Franke Flowers an international illegal gambling figure. Vernon Odom, Channel 6 Action News in South Philadelphia.
The police say it has all the signs of a classic mob hit. 72-year-old Felix Bacchino was found this morning at the wheel of his car on the 1200 block of Mifflin Street. He'd been shot 3 times.
It appears that he got into his auto, appeared to have either attempted to turn it on, the keys were in the ignition, and apparently it happened very quickly. Persons came up to the car. It was at close range, and they fled immediately afterwards.
It happened right outside Susan Castorina's house.
At first I thought it was that they just broke somebody's windows. I didn't even know. And then when I looked in the car, I seen him laying in the car.
The people who live in this neighborhood are reluctant to talk about Bacchino on camera, but they say he was a very well-known figure in the neighborhood and that he often kept a familiar routine of walking his dog and getting his paper at the same time every morning. Whoever whacked Bacchino this morning apparently was well aware of his routine. Bacchino is identified by the Pennsylvania Crime Commission as a high-ranking member of the Scarfo crime family. Nicky Scarfo and most of his underbosses are now in jail, which has left the local mob without clear-cut leadership. Bacchino may have been the victim of a power struggle.
It's certainly got to be an indication that there's some friction, perhaps over succession, and perhaps that there are factions developing over who, in fact, may be the next boss.
When mob boss Angelo Bruno was killed in 1980, it was the start of a bloody power struggle that wiped out at least 30 mafia members and associates, with Nicky Scarfo emerging as the new boss. While today's hit may or may not be the start of a similar bloodbath, organized crime watchers say it at least signals a turning point as the Philadelphia mob enters a new era. David Henry, Channel 6 Action News, South Philadelphia.
60-year-old Mario Sonny Riccobini, a one-time member of the Bruno Scarfo organized crime family, has been identified as the man murdered last night in the parking lot of the Brooklawn Diner. Riccobini had been shot several times in the head as he sat in this parked station wagon. The driver's side window shattered by gunfire. Riccobini's foot on the accelerator, the engine running red hot.
Given the circumstances of the
killing. We are obviously investigating an organized crime connection.
Riccobene had been in the Federal Witness Protection Program from 1984 until '89, when, according to the FBI, he was kicked out for habitually violating security procedures. Riccobene returned to live in rural Gloucester County with his elderly mother.
I have to tell you, my experience has been that some people in the Witness Protection Program do very foolish things.
Riccobene is the half-brother of Harry the Hunchback Riccobene, who is serving time for the 1982 murder of Frank Monte. In '84, Sonny Riccobene began cooperating with police against other mobsters, including his half-brother, and at that time entered witness protection. Last night's murder here in Brooklawn came 3 weeks after another murder in Audubon, New Jersey. In that case, a reputed West Coast gang enforcer, Rod Colombo, was shot in the head as he sat in a parked car.
We're looking at the similarities, but we have no reason other than those circumstantial similarities to think that they're connected at this point.
While Riccobene was no longer in the Federal Witness Protection Program, law enforcement officials kept tabs on him. They knew where he was. Obviously, Riccobene's enemies also knew where to find him. I'm Kathy Gandolfo, Channel 6 Action News, Camden, New Jersey.
At 34, Joseph Ciancaglini was reportedly the underboss of the Philadelphia mob investigators say is now run by John Stanfa. Ciancaglini is the son of imprisoned mobster Joseph Chicky Ciancaglini. Both father and son were part of Nicky Scarfo's crime family. The Pennsylvania Crime Commission says Stanfa runs a much different organization than Scarfo, and newer, younger members don't like it.
I think what you're seeing is there's an attempt, at least, to reconcile the old world and the new world. And I think what you're seeing is there's tremendous turmoil within the family as Stanfa tries to impose some of the old world rules and values on the newer people.
In the past 2 months, law enforcers say there have been 4 suspected mob hits in this area, including the murder of a man from California, Rod Colombo. The others, Mario Riccobene, killed because authorities believe he turned mob informant. Louis Capello, a former Scarfo soldier, was shot to death in Delaware County. And today, Joey Ciancaglini. And sources say there was also an attempted mob hit at a restaurant here on Delaware Avenue. Those sources say back on December 30th, mobsters tried to kill a cook who was reportedly dating John Stanfa's daughter. Those sources also say that the shotgun used apparently misfired. Ironically, Ciancaglini's brother Michael survived a botched murder attempt outside his home 1 year ago tomorrow. Investigators predict a future of more calculated, well-planned murder attempts. They say those attempts will be designed to weed out the old and bring in the new. I'm Karen Friedman, Channel 6 Action News.
It didn't take police long to realize that they had another mob hit on their hands. This time it was inside this luncheonette in Grays Ferry. This time the victim was 36-year-old Joey Ciancaglini of Cherry Hill, gunned down by 3 suspects.
We have information that there was 3 white males wearing ski masks, and they were last seen leaving this location.
Ciancaglini was shot 5 times, 3 times in the head. Throughout the morning, investigators combed the area for clues, searching rooftops and talking to neighbors. But the only witness seemed to be this woman, a waitress who was inside the luncheonette when the gunman arrived. She was immediately taken to police headquarters for questioning. Investigators say the victim has strong ties to organized crime in the city. His father, Joey "Chicky" Ciancaglini Sr., is a convicted mobster. Joey Jr. is suspected of being second in command to reputed local mob boss John Stanfa. In fact, according to the FBI, this luncheonette is owned by the Stanfa family. Yet police declined comment on why Joey Jr. was a target.
Well, I'm not going to speculate on what the retaliation or if it is a retaliation. What I'll say at this time is we're going to investigate it. We're going to see, what the causes were, if we possibly can find them out. And once we get all the pieces together, then we'll let you know the story.
And certainly the story extends beyond today's violence. On March 3rd, 1992, a year ago tomorrow, Joey Ciancaglini's brother Michael was the target of a mob hit in South Philadelphia. He was entering his home on McKean Street when shotgun blasts rang out. Michael, however, wasn't injured. Officials suspect there's a link between the attempted mob hits of both brothers. And in Brooklawn, New Jersey, this past January, the body of Mario "Sonny" Riccobene was found slumped in his car outside a diner. Riccobene had turned mob informant, and police speculate his murder was payback. And so tonight, investigators are not only trying to figure out who would want Joey Ciancaglini dead, but if this latest mob hit is a signal of a resurgence of mob violence in the city of Philadelphia. Rick Williams, Channel 6 Action News in Grays Ferry.
The courthouse in Toms River was evacuated at about 10:30 this morning after an anonymous bomb threat was phoned in.
Yeah, we're moving them now.
Sheriff's officers cleared out hundreds of people to make way for a bomb-sniffing dog that searched the grounds, but no device was found. The scare came just after former Scarfo crime family underboss Crazy Phil Leonetti took the stand to testify against 5 alleged members of the Lucchese crime family in a murder racketeering trial. Jurors were polled after the incident to see if any were concerned about continuing. All stayed on. A defense attorney denied any of the accused played a role in the bomb threat.
They had absolutely nothing to gain. The defense never gains by this kind of scenario. All it does is add to the aura of fear that is helpful to the state in this kind of a case.
When testimony finally resumed, Leonetti told the jury he attended a 1984 meeting in Atlantic City with Martin Testa and Thomas Riccardi, who are accused of beating Ocean County mob associate Vincent Crapparata to death with golf clubs. Crapparata was allegedly killed because he wouldn't cut the Lucchese crime family in on a lucrative video poker machine business. Leonetti said Testa admitted the murder and told him it's better to use golf clubs than baseball bats because bats can break, but golf clubs don't break.
We shouldn't believe his testimony.
Defense attorneys maintain the jury can't trust Leonetti, a mobster turned government informant.
He has led a life of crime. He has committed murders that are untold, uncounted.
I think everybody will be able to draw their own conclusions as to his truthfulness.
Leonetti, whom the judge would not permit us to photograph because he is a federally protected witness, will continue testifying on Thursday when the trial resumes. I'm Nora Mushanek, Channel 6 Action News, Toms River, New Jersey.
Some came in couples, others came in big, well-dressed groups. Police sources say they were all invited here by John Stanfa, and even the kitchen workers have been told to keep it private, as Vern Odom and I found out earlier tonight.
We just want to get a shot of the dining room area.
Just 5 seconds. The event inside this hall, lined with barbed wire, was a benefit for alleged Stanfa associate Joey Ciancaglini. He's been hospitalized for 2 months after being shot 5 times at his South Philadelphia restaurant. Ciancaglini's brother, Michael, the man on the left in the red jacket, was on the guest list. He narrowly escaped serious injury when somebody opened fire on his South Philadelphia house last March. The proprietor here downplayed tonight's event.
It's a party, like if your daughter's getting married or for anybody, it's a secret party.
But not everybody was buying that. Parked around the hall were several cars, presumably containing either police watching the event or mobsters watching police. Meanwhile, bystanders watched everyone.
Is this like a big event around here tonight?
No, we're just curious.
Reporters and photographers watched too. Not that we learned much.
Excuse me. Can you stop and talk to us for a second? No, that's the same, man. What do you want to talk about? Let's go. Come on. Let's go.
Signs of the assault in the 1200 block of McKean Street in South Philadelphia were still evident today. Twisted metal, shattered glass, and boarded up windows. Last night, police say 2 gunmen pumped 5 shotgun rounds into the house, narrowly missing 29-year-old Michael Ciancaglini, his wife, and 2 children who all live here. The only sign of official business this morning was this scrap of police line, but there's plenty more going on behind the scenes. A spokesperson for the Pennsylvania Crime Commission tells me they're keeping a very close eye on what happened here last night, namely because of who the victim is. Last night's target is the son of reputed mobster Joseph Chicky Ciancaglini, a former Scarfo associate serving time for racketeering. The Crime Commission believes new bosses trying to take over the mob targeted Ciancaglini's son last night as a warning.
There was a warning put forth that we know your family, we know who's involved, and if you don't get in line, these are the consequences.
But Martins also says there's no evidence Michael Ciancaglini is even in the mob, and that last night's gunmen weren't trying to kill him, but were only trying to scare some of his alleged mafia relatives. However, a U.S. attorney who helped convict Michael's father thinks otherwise.
It just reeks of being a mob hit, a not particularly well orchestrated one, a botched one to be sure.
We tried to ask Michael Ciancaglini what he thinks, but those in the house this morning weren't answering the door, at least not for reporters. An apparent friend got in after we tried. This is the second recent sign of mob unrest. 73-year-old Felix Bocchino, a mob foot soldier, was fatally shot near his South Philadelphia home 5 weeks ago. There are no suspects in either case tonight, but plenty of mob-related suspicion. In South Philadelphia, David Murphy, Channel 6 Action News.
You gotta go around a long way, Grace.
All we heard was pop, 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 like a firecracker, a box of firecrackers going off.
Witness Al Arena described the wild scene at 6th and Catherine this afternoon. Police quickly descended on the area. They say Ciancaglini and Merlino had just walked out of their clubhouse and were heading up Catherine when suddenly a car came up and 2 men in baseball caps opened fire.
Both males were shot with automatic weapons fire. We believe automatic weapons fire or semi-automatic weapons. One male is dead and one male is being admitted to the hospital.
Ciancaglini received multiple chest wounds and was dead on arrival at Jefferson Hospital. Police say Merlino had several wounds in his backside. He's hospitalized and reported to be in good condition. Less than 2 hours ago, police found a torched Ford Taurus at 19th and Johnson here in South Philadelphia. They believe it was the car used in today's mafia hit. It is a rental car from New Jersey. Michael Ciancaglini and his family are no strangers to mafia-style violence. This is Action News videotape of Mike Ciancaglini entering an April fundraiser for his brother Joey Jr., who was critically wounded in what police say was a mob hit attempt back in March of this year at a Grays Ferry restaurant. Back in March of 1992, shotgun-wielding masked gunmen fired 5 shots into Michael Ciancaglini's home at 12th and McKean, but no one was reported injured that night. The Pennsylvania Crime Commission says the Ciancaglini brothers, Joey Jr. and Michael, were feuding over rival loyalties to mafia higher-ups, and today's shooting may have been in retaliation for this spring's shooting of Joey Jr.
All I seen was 2 puffs of smoke, and that was it. Then I asked one of the officers, I said, could have been a close-range fire? He said it was machine gun. That's all he told me.
So you didn't go running down there when you heard...
No way. No way.
He's all right. He's shot in the leg. Come on. Have a part with vultures.
Police this afternoon combed the shooting scene at 6th and Catherine for evidence. Both Michael Ciancaglini and Joey Merlino had well-documented mob backgrounds. FBI and police sources tell me they both had been warned months ago that there were contracts on their heads. Today's hit that killed Ciancaglini and left Merlino wounded in the buttocks came moments after they left their 6th and Catherine clubhouse. Police say 9mm .45 caliber semi-automatic weapons were used. And it was done in a drive-by fashion by 2 white males in baseball caps.
We thought it was firecrackers.
You heard the shooting?
Yeah, because my dog went nuts, but we didn't see, like, what happened.
And what did you see when you ran around here?
Just a lot of people running.
The car the hitmen used was found later this afternoon in the 2800 block of 19th Street here in South Philadelphia. It had been set on fire. Police tell me they picked up a possible suspect seen emerging from the car moments before it was torched. Michael Ciancaglini, seen here going to an April fundraiser for his brother, was, according to law enforcement sources, feuding with his brother, Joey Jr., over rival loyalties to mob leaders. And his killing today may have been in retaliation for the shooting of Joey Jr. in March of this year. All these men were well-known figures here in South Philadelphia.
Well, everybody knows Michael Ciancaglini.
Very surprised by what happened today?
I am, yeah. You never hurted anybody. Whatever he done was his business.
He's okay. He's okay. He's all right. He's all right. He's shot in the leg. Come on. Have a part with vultures.
Within the hour, Merlino's wife rushed in here by cab and was told by friends he was all right, that he had just been shot in the leg. This before a man waved the cameras off. Joey Merlino, who you see here in this photograph, according to law enforcement sources, was a big player in what's left of the Scarfo mob family. This along with his good friend and associate who was gunned down today, Michael Ciancaglini. Merlino is the son of Scarfo mob underboss Salvatore Merlino, who, as you know, is in prison on racketeering charges, along with Nicky Scarfo. According to the Pennsylvania Crime Commission, John Stanfa has been leading the organization, but Joey Merlino has been a burr in his side as leader of a dissident faction of the organization. Sources say Merlino had been involved in shakedowns and was getting a bit heavy-handed, that he had been told to back off. Right now, uniform and non-uniform police are staked out at various outposts around the hospital, standing guard in case there is another attempt on Merlino's life here at the hospital. Here we see Merlino's sister rushing into the hospital, who police had earlier identified as his wife, as she is being told not to worry, that Merlino is all right. There are a number of relatives and friends of Merlino crowded into the emergency room here at Pennsylvania Hospital. Meantime, the body of his close friend and associate, Michael Ciancaglini, was wheeled out of Jefferson Hospital earlier this afternoon after being pronounced dead with a gunshot wound to the head. His family members and friends were at the hospital when they got the word. There was nothing they could do to save his life.
Is he aware that his good friend, Michael Ciancaglini, is dead?
I think he is.
Did he say anything about that?
I was extremely upset, as everyone else would be. Upset.
Ciancaglini is seen here with Joey Merlino in a recent photograph. Merlino, as you know, is the son of Scarfo mob underboss Salvatore Merlino, who's serving time along with Nicky Scarfo for racketeering. According to the Pennsylvania Crime Commission, Merlino has been leading a dissident faction of the splintered Scarfo organization, much to the displeasure of John Stanfa, who is supposed to be running things.
I assume you were this Philly, right? Oh, okay.
No.
Joey Merlino was among the first to arrive and the last to leave the viewing for his slain friend and reputed mobster, Michael Ciancaglini. Merlino, walking with a cane tonight, was wounded during a barrage of gunfire that killed Ciancaglini as they walked together in South Philadelphia last week. Authorities believe the two, out of step with reputed mob boss John Stanfa, were the target of a hit. Hundreds of people lined up outside the Carter funeral home tonight to pay their last respects. Among those carrying condolences was Merlino's attorney, Joseph Santaguida. While he insists Merlino is not involved with the mob, he had little to say on camera tonight.
Put it all in the papers tomorrow.
A woman identifying herself as Ciancaglini's friend scoffed at any notion that he's involved in organized crime.
I don't believe any of it because I knew him, but people are going to talk anyway, so I think it's all crazy.
Still, people crowded their steps and lined up across the street to catch a glimpse of whatever there was to see.
I was just curious about the crowd and the people. And
the people want to see this and they want to identify with it because it gives them a feeling of what power, importance, to be close to something that's happening and something that most people don't understand what the workings are.
What about it being so close to where you live?
I don't like the idea of it, but I guess I got to live with it, you know? It's part of living on Broad Street.
It's kind of scary, though, you know? These dudes are pretty big anyway, you know?
I sure won't want to play the big boys.
I won't want to play the big boys, no way. Never.
Michael Ciancaglini will be buried in South Jersey tomorrow morning. Meantime, the investigation into his murder continues. Denise James, Channel 6 Action News in South Philadelphia.
Channel 6. Is there anything you can say about Mike?
He's a wonderful father.
Door.
Oh, I got it. That's the one I
I got coming out of the year.
Want to make a face for you? No, forget it. Notice the matching ties?
Stanfa, do you have any comment about this morning?
He's concerned regarding his son. That's the only remark that can be made.
And who are you?
Fucking balls.
I see it. I see it.
Back on the pavement. No, on the pavement. On the pavement.
Wants to look at the number.
Even if Stanfa had come, it's doubtful he'd have much to say to police. This is Stanfa yesterday, hours after his son, 23-year-old Joseph Stanfa, was shot and wounded in an apparent mob hit yesterday morning. Last night, police armed with a search warrant confiscated weapons from Stanfa's food warehouse business. John and Joseph Stanfa were passengers in a car yesterday morning. They had left their Medford, New Jersey home for the Stanfa warehouse business in the Grays Ferry section of Philadelphia. Their car was riddled with bullets, and Joseph Stanfa was hit in the face. He is hospitalized in serious but stable condition. Authorities believe John Stanfa was really the target, and that this is the latest round in the escalating mob war. You'll recall Michael Ciancaglini was murdered last month and Joseph Merlino wounded. They were part of a faction opposed to Stanfa's alleged mob rule. Yesterday's shooting is believed to be an act of retaliation.
working now? Nah, they got a little working now. We got that at Joey for one. I pulled it down.
Warfield. New Warfield. New Warfield. New Warfield.
I'm right there.
No, quick.
Police say this man, Fernando Vincente, was kidnapped the night of March 19th, but Monday in court, he refused to say he was abducted.
We think Vincente was intimidated by the circumstances, so he probably didn't tell exactly what happened.
The facts are Vincente was leaving work at the San Marco restaurant on City Line Avenue when a red van rushed up. Vincente ended up in that van. Vincente departed in that red van so abruptly, he left his own car parked here with its engine running and lights on. A co-worker said he heard Vincente scream as he entered that red van. That co-worker, fearing the worst, ran to a nearby police officer and reported a kidnapping. According to the police, the van raced wildly northbound on City Line, weaving through traffic. When police finally stopped the red van, they say they found 3 men, including Vincente. A loaded .38 caliber pistol, some rope, some carpeting, and some heavy-duty tape. They say that is evidence of an alleged kidnapping. Charged were 34-year-old Gary Tavella of South Philadelphia and 24-year-old Rosario Bellacci of Italy. But on the stand, Vincente repeatedly said he was confused, that he had exaggerated about being hit by the defendants. In broken English, he testified the van ride scared him, but because he had no seatbelt. Defense attorneys made much of his claim that he got into the van to talk about a past argument over a girl.
They were going to discuss it, and before you know it, the police chased them and caught them. And I think that, it's a little unfair that, I don't know why, they're making out some organized crime connotations.
The district justice said Vincente was not so much confused as intimidated, and he refused to throw out the case. Tavella remains free on his own recognizance. But in an effort to block a bail reduction for defendant Bellacci, the DA disclosed that Bellacci's fingerprint has turned up on a murder weapon in Camden County. Bellacci remains in jail tonight, while Camden officials said they cannot comment on anyone who has not been charged. John Rollins, Channel 6, Action News.
Yeah, I'm the fit one. All right, thanks. We'll see you back there.
You guys gonna make
Reaction? You're off to the team.
Yeah. Let me know. That's good. Go for it. What spark do you need, Sammy?
The doctors don't want to give you a guarantee about his condition, but I feel good after talking to the doctor that's in charge of the case now.
No major arteries or veins were injured. We did arteriograms, with x-rays of the blood vessels, and the bullets were in proximity to several large blood vessels, but none of them were injured. So there was no major blood loss.
But did have some pain and discomfort.
Does he realize how close he came to dying? I mean, in the sense that a fraction of an inch could have made...
Well, I don't think that he thinks of it in terms of fractions of an inch, but he does realize that somebody was there to kill him, and that it was very close that he wasn't killed. I would say he was kind of lucky.
Nicky Scarfo Jr. is very lucky to be alive. Doctors here at Jefferson Hospital don't know exactly how many 9mm bullets ripped through his body last night, but he has at least 9 bullet wounds, including 1 below his right ear, 1 in his neck, his chin, and 2 in his chest. Yet remarkably today, he is alert.
He's
But while Nicky Scarfo Jr. is progressing, the police say the probe into his shooting has been hampered by the fact that Scarfo will not cooperate.
Yes, we had talked with him.
What has he been able to tell you?
Well, he too referred us to his attorneys.
Attorney Robert Simone said police first tried to question Scarfo as he was lying in a pool of blood. But Simone concedes, even as Scarfo recovers, cooperation is doubtful. Simone said he was able to contact Scarfo's father, mob boss Nicky Scarfo, today to tell him his son's condition was improving. The elder Scarfo is in federal prison in Illinois. Police have little to go on. They are trying to trace his machine pistol, which was found about 100 feet from the South Philadelphia restaurant where Scarfo Jr. was gunned down. All they know about the trigger man is that he is about 5'9", thin, wore a mask, and said nothing. But while facts are scarce, theories for the shooting abound. One school of thought, the hit was ordered by members of the Gambino mob family of New York, which is now headed by this man, John Gotti. The theory is the New Yorkers are enraged that Scarfo Jr.'s cousin, Mob Lieutenant Phil Leonetti, has reportedly become a government informant and will testify against Gotti. Last night's hit has been termed a payback. The homegrown theory is that Scarfo Jr., playing the surrogate for his imprisoned father, had angered locals with an emerging arrogant style. As for those theories, police will only say... And as for the future, is last night's attack the start of something? John Rawlins, Channel 6, Action News.
The Scarfo family in happier times, celebrating the acquittal of Scarfo Sr. and his associates in the South Testa murder back in May of last year. For the family, now an obscure, faded memory. While there is relief among family members tonight that Nicky Jr. will likely pull through, his shooting is but the latest in harsh blows they have suffered. Ironically, only today, Nicky Jr.'s younger brother Mark was to go home from a New Jersey medical facility where he remains in a coma after last year's suicide attempt. Meantime, sources close to the investigation believe last night's incident was a botched assassination attempt on the life of Nicky Jr. The Mac 11 semi-automatic used in the shooting, unlike some weapons, was designed for precise target hits.
The type of weapon that was used will produce a lot of penetration, but not a lot of widespread tissue damage.
Investigators believe the perpetrators were supposed to finish what's left of the Scarfo mob family.
They're decimated here in Philadelphia because most of them are behind bars. Some of them will never get out from behind bars, including Scarfo Sr. and the 7 people that we convicted.
Investigators' worst fear tonight is that New York's Gambino mob family, headed by John Gotti, which has been moving aggressively into Atlantic City real estate, is now trying to move into Philadelphia.
It's possible that Philadelphia may be trying to be eliminated in the New York, Atlantic City, Philadelphia triangle.
But whoever ultimately is behind attempting to eliminate Jr. and thus put the last nail in the Scarfo mob family coffin, investigators are pretty convinced of one thing. It's likely to get a lot bloodier before it's all over. I'm Dan Cuellar, Channel 6 Action News, South Philadelphia.
Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to our channel and check out more of our content. Feel free to give your feedback and suggestions on what we should do next in the comments. This is Infinite Lee Productions. We love ya.